Captain James Teller was an unassuming figure. Not quite the heroic type one might expect to lead an intergalactic expedition. His square jaw was typically hidden behind a well-kept beard, and his eyes, a sharp blue, often carried a spark of mischief. As the commander of the SS Odyssey, a vessel tasked with exploring and establishing relations in new sectors of the Milky Way, Teller had seen more than his fair share of strange new worlds and even stranger customs. But nothing had prepared him for the chaos that would ensue over something as simple as a human meal. The Odyssey had docked at Station Sigma, a sprawling space hub known for its vast array of alien cultures and cuisines. The station served as a trading post, a diplomatic venue, and a social hub for species from hundreds of star systems. Its cafeteria, a massive dome-shaped hall filled with an eclectic assortment of dining tables, was famous for its ability to cater to the dietary needs and preferences of any species known to the Galactic Council. On what seemed like a routine stopover, Captain Teller and his crew had decided to share a typical human meal with their new alien friends from the planet Xanthal. The Xanthali were a reptilian species, known for their keen scientific minds and their strict dietary regulations which were deeply embedded in their culture. Their diet primarily consisted of a nutrient-rich slurry, which to human senses was less than appetizing. The meal began in a typical diplomatic fashion. Captain Teller and his crew presented platters of what they considered common Earth cuisine: grilled chicken, mashed potatoes, steamed vegetables, and for dessert, apple pie. The aromas, entirely normal for the humans, filled their section of the cafeteria. However, as the scent wafted through the air, it began to draw attention from other species in the vicinity, not all of whom found the smells familiar or pleasant. A Murthog delegate from a methane-breathing species wrinkled its nose-like appendages in disgust, its translator unit sputtering with indignation. "What is this offensive odor? It assaults my senses," the delegate exclaimed, causing a few nearby tables to turn and look. The Murthogs were known for their dramatics, but the reaction was stronger and more visceral than usual. Across the room, a group of feathered avialans, avian creatures that communicated through a series of chirps and whistles, began to fan themselves with their wings, sending a clear signal of distress. Their acute olfactory senses were overwhelmed by the unfamiliar spices and cooked meats. Captain Teller, noticing the growing unrest, tried to apologize and explain, but the cultural and physiological differences made the situation difficult to contain. The human food, benign to Teller and his crew, turned out to be an olfactory stimulant to some species and a repellent to others. Amidst growing chaos, the station's security bots rolled in, their sensors flashing as they tried to maintain order. They emitted calming pheromones and broadcasted universal peace messages, but the damage was done. The cafeteria was in an uproar, with different species either clamoring to try the strange new food or demanding its immediate removal from the premises. Seeing the confusion his well-intentioned meal had caused, Captain Teller signaled his crew to start packing up the food. He approached the station's manager, a wise old Glython known for his experience in handling interspecies disputes. "I apologize for the misunderstanding," Teller said earnestly. "We only wish to share a part of our culture." The Glython, his skin shimmering with a calming blue hue, nodded slowly. "Captain, your intentions were good, but remember, food is more than sustenance in the galaxy. It's a declaration of identity, a cause for unity, or as you have seen, chaos." With a heavy heart, Teller agreed to restrict human food to the Odyssey while docked at Sigma, pondering on the unexpected power of culinary diplomacy and the fine line between cultural sharing and cultural imposition. As the crowd began to disperse, Teller couldn't help but feel a mix of embarrassment and awe at the incident. It was a stark reminder of the complexities of galactic relations, where even the simplest human tradition could spark an interstellar incident. Captain Teller's decision to restrict human food consumption to the confines of the SS Odyssey brought a temporary calm to Station Sigma. But the seeds of discontent had already been sown among the varied species that populated the sprawling space hub. The incident in the cafeteria had highlighted the fragile nature of interstellar diplomacy and the complex cultural sensitivities that could easily spiral into conflict. As Teller retreated to his ship to reassess the situation, word of the human food fiasco spread through the station. The news was not just a topic of gossip, but became a case study in cultural clashes, discussed in hushed tones in the shadowy corridors and bright halls of Sigma. The Murtaugh delegation, still nursing their olfactory offenses, called for a meeting of the Galactic Council representatives present on the station. Their agenda was clear: to establish stricter guidelines on the introduction of new elements into communal spaces. Meanwhile, the Avialans saw the incident through a different lens. Their chief diplomat, a keen-eyed elder named Kalis, approached Teller with a proposal. "Captain, the chaos today was unfortunate, but it has opened a dialogue among us," he chirped, his voice a melody of diplomatic tact. "We see potential in learning from each other's cultures, perhaps in a controlled environment. Could we consider a joint research initiative to explore the cultural significances of dietary practices?" Teller, eager to mend relations and shift the narrative from chaos to cooperation, agreed to the proposal. Together, they outlined a plan for a series of cultural exchange dinners that would be strictly regulated, with thorough prior screening of all foods for potential adverse reactions across species. Back on the Odyssey, Teller convened his senior staff in the command center. The walls of the room were lined with screens displaying various star maps and data feeds, the blue light casting a futuristic glow over the assembled crew. "We have an opportunity to turn this setback into a stepping stone for deeper relations," Teller announced, outlining the plan for the cultural exchange dinners. "We'll need to collaborate closely with the station's medical and cultural experts. I want detailed profiles on the dietary customs and physiological makeups of all participating species." Dr. Lena Choi, the ship's chief medical officer, raised a concern. "We'll need to tread carefully, Captain. The physiological differences are vast, and what is benign to one species can be lethal to another. We should consider synthesizing food samples in our lab first, to test their effects." Teller nodded in agreement, the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. The logistics of the operation were daunting, but the potential benefits of fostering deeper understanding among the galaxy's diverse inhabitants were too significant to ignore. In the following weeks, preparations for the first dinner were underway. The Odyssey's lab was a flurry of activity, with scientists and chefs working together to create a menu that was both appealing and safe for all participants. Simulated environments mimicked the atmospheric and gravitational conditions of each species' homeworld to test the food's integrity and effects. As the date of the dinner approached, tensions on Station Sigma remained high. The Murtaugh delegation continued to push for strict regulations, while other species watched the unfolding events with a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Teller knew that the success of this dinner would not only determine the future of human relations in the galaxy, but could also serve as a model for intercultural cooperation moving forward. As the final preparations were checked and rechecked, Teller looked out of the command center's viewport at the bustling activity of Station Sigma. Ships from countless worlds docked and departed, a reminder of the vast and varied universe they were all a part of. In this dance of diplomacy, every step was crucial, and every gesture spoke volumes. The Odyssey was set to host a dinner that could either bridge galaxies or deepen the divides. On the eve of the cultural exchange dinner, the atmosphere aboard the SS Odyssey was electric with anticipation and a fair measure of anxiety. The ship's grand dining hall had been transformed into a neutral meeting space, with tables arranged to accommodate the various environmental and gravitational needs of each species. Atmospheric regulators hummed softly in the background, tuning the air composition to ensure the comfort of all guests. Captain Teller, dressed in his ceremonial uniform, surveyed the setting. Each table was a testament to the painstaking research and collaboration of his crew. There were sections with enhanced gravity settings for the heavy world Zorthans, and others where the air was rich with nitrogen to suit the breathing requirements of the gaseous Falcons. The guests began to arrive, a procession of diversity that could only be found in the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Teller greeted each delegation with a respectful nod or a gesture of peace, as custom dictated. The Murtaughs, still wary from the earlier incident, were stiff but polite, their sensory appendages tightly coiled. The Avialans fluttered in with a grace that belied the sharp intelligence in their eyes, while the reptilian Xanthali moved with deliberate, slow gestures, their scales shimmering under the ambient lighting. As the dinner commenced, Dr. Choi and her team circulated discreetly, monitoring the reactions of the guests to the various dishes. The first course was a simple nutrient broth, synthesized to be universally digestible and served in biodegradable vessels. Conversation bubbled up around the tables, a cautious exchange of pleasantries and scientific interest. Captain Teller took a moment to address the gathering. Tonight is not just about food, but about understanding and respect. Each dish has been crafted with knowledge and care, representing the customs and necessities of our diverse cultures. The second course featured a more complex arrangement, small portions of traditional dishes from several worlds, each accompanied by a holographic display explaining its significance and ingredients. The Murthogs tentatively sampled a gelatinous cube from Glexer 5, their olfactory appendages uncoiling slightly as they detected no offensive aromas. However, as the evening progressed, a minor incident threatened the fragile peace. A junior diplomat from a newly integrated insectoid species reacted poorly to a harmless-seeming vapor emitted by the Avialan dish. The room fell silent, as medical bots swiftly attended to the diplomat, administering a neutralizing agent. The pause was palpable, every attendee bracing for a repeat of the cafeteria chaos. Yet, it was the Avialan elder Kailis who broke the silence. Rising from his seat, his feathers subtly shifting in color to express regret, he addressed the room. This moment highlights the very trials we face in understanding each other. Even with the best intentions, mistakes are made. Let us use them not to widen our gaps, but to bridge them. His words, translated into dozens of languages and formats, seemed to resonate around the room. The tension eased as discussions resumed, this time with a renewed focus on the complexities of interspecies interactions and the importance of shared experiences. As the dinner drew to a close, Captain Teller reflected on the successes and setbacks of the evening. While not perfect, the event had undeniably moved the needle towards greater mutual understanding. Agreements were made for further exchanges and collaborative research projects. Back in the command center, Teller stared out into the vastness of space. The stars, distant yet constant, seemed to echo the potential of what they had begun today. In the grand tapestry of the cosmos, each thread, no matter how different, was vital to the whole. As the Odyssey prepared for its departure from Station Sigma, Teller felt a cautious optimism. Tonight was just the beginning, and the road ahead was long and uncertain, but it was paved with the promise of unity and diversity. As the SS Odyssey prepared to depart from Station Sigma, the impact of the cultural exchange dinner resonated beyond the confines of the ship and the station. The incident with the insectoid diplomat had been contained, but it ignited a broader debate among the station's denizens and the Galactic Council about the implications of such close interspecies interactions. Captain Teller found himself increasingly involved in diplomatic discussions, navigating the delicate intricacies of galactic politics. The successful yet fragile dinner had positioned him as a spokesperson for cultural integration, a role he embraced with a mix of dedication and apprehension. On the political front, factions within the Galactic Council pushed for a new framework to govern such interactions. The Murthogs, having softened their stance slightly after the dinner, proposed the establishment of a cultural sensitivity board. This body would oversee any intercultural events, ensuring that all aspects from food to atmospheric conditions were vetted and approved to prevent mishaps. Meanwhile, Teller received an unexpected communication from the Xanthali delegation. They expressed a keen interest in the human approach to culinary practices, intrigued by the emotional and social significance humans placed on food. They requested a private meeting aboard the Odyssey to discuss potential collaborative ventures in biotechnology, aiming to explore the synthesis of food that could cater to emotional as well as nutritional needs across species. Dr. Choi, intrigued by the scientific opportunities, prepared a comprehensive presentation. She highlighted their preliminary findings from the synthesized dishes served at the dinner, focusing on the biochemical processes that could be harnessed to create food products sensitive to the emotional states of different species. The meeting with the Xanthali was a subdued affair, contrasting sharply with the lively dinner. The reptilian scientists were methodical and precise, examining the data with a critical eye. Their leader, a stern-faced elder named Sathis, was particularly interested in the neurochemical effects of certain spices used in human cuisine. "The concept of comfort food is fascinating," Sathis remarked, his voice a low hiss. "We are curious whether these principles can be adapted to produce a calming effect on our young, who struggle with hyperactivity due to our planet's high-energy radiation levels." The potential collaboration presented a new frontier for Teller and his crew. It was not just about sharing meals, but creating them to address specific physiological and psychological needs. The excitement was palpable among the Odyssey's scientific team as they began drafting a research proposal. As these developments unfolded, the crew of the Odyssey worked tirelessly to prepare for their departure. The ship's engineer, Lieutenant Harrow, conducted a final systems check, ensuring that the Odyssey was ready for its next mission. The engine's hum filled the ship, a constant reminder of the vast distances they would soon traverse. But as they made their final preparations, an urgent message arrived from Station Sigma's security office. A minor but growing faction of species on the station had started to rally against what they viewed as unnecessary and dangerous fraternization. They cited the recent events as evidence of the risks posed by too close an integration. Teller convened his senior officers to discuss the situation. "We are at a crossroads," he said, the starlight from the command center's viewport casting long shadows across the room. "Our actions here could either open doors to new alliances or see them shut permanently if we're not careful." The decision was made to proceed with the departure, but to keep a channel open for dialogue with Station Sigma. Teller knew that the journey ahead was not just about exploring new worlds, but also about navigating the complex web of relationships they were building. As the Odyssey finally disengaged from Station Sigma and slipped into the star-speckled expanse of space, Teller watched the station recede into the distance. He was aware that the echoes of what had begun here would follow them into the cosmos, shaping their path in ways they could not yet foresee. The stakes were high, but so were the possibilities. As the SS Odyssey glided through the cosmos, away from Station Sigma, the impact of their recent interactions resonated deeply within the crew. The starship, a beacon of exploration and diplomacy, was now also a testbed for one of the most ambitious projects in the galaxy, the development of emotionally responsive food. Back on board, Dr. Choi spearheaded the project, her lab a hive of activity. She collaborated closely with the Xanthali scientists remotely, exchanging data and samples through secure quantum channels. The challenge was immense, to bioengineer food that not only nourished but also responded to the emotional and psychological states of diverse species. In the Odyssey's main lab, a new prototype synthesizer hummed softly, processing inputs from various species' physiological data. The team experimented with neuroreactive spices that could be adjusted in real time to soothe or energize, depending on the consumer's mood. Meanwhile, Captain Teller navigated the ship towards their next destination, a small, uncharted system on the outer rim of the Orion Arm. The system had been flagged for exploration due to anomalous energy readings suggestive of rare minerals or possibly unknown life forms. As the Odyssey approached the system, the crew's attention was divided between their scientific pursuits and the preparations for exploration. Lieutenant Harrow monitored the ship's approach to the first planet, a gas giant with vibrant rings, potentially hiding valuable resources in its many moons. The exploration team, suited up for their mission, was briefed in the ship's hangar bay. Their mission was to collect samples from the moons, looking for minerals and organic compounds that could contribute to their ongoing research projects or serve as new energy sources. The Odyssey deployed its smaller scout ships, which danced around the gas giant, each headed to a different moon. The first reports were promising. One moon contained a rare crystalline structure that shimmered with potential energy properties, while another harbored a type of fungus that thrived in low-light and high-pressure environments. Amid these discoveries, an unexpected challenge arose. The scout ship exploring the third moon sent a distress signal. Its systems had malfunctioned, leaving it adrift. Captain Teller, always calm under pressure, coordinated a rescue operation. The crew worked with precision, managing not only to recover the scout ship, but also to retrieve its valuable cargo of samples. The incident underscored the ever-present dangers of space exploration, reminding the crew that the edge of known space was a frontier not just of opportunities, but also of unforeseen risks. With the scout ships back and the samples secured, the Odyssey resumed its journey, its course set for the next system. In the lab, Dr. Choi reviewed the new samples, her mind racing with possibilities. The rare minerals and the resilient fungus could potentially be incorporated into their food synthesis project, offering new ways to enhance the nutritional and emotional impact of their creations. As the ship sailed through the darkness of space, lit only by distant stars, the unity and determination of the crew stood as a testament to the human spirit. They were explorers and diplomats, scientists and pioneers, each playing a part in weaving the intricate tapestry of interstellar relations and scientific discovery. The Odyssey's journey was more than a mission. It was a testament to the possibilities that lay in the vast, unexplored stretches of the universe. Each star that passed by was a reminder of the infinite stories waiting to be told, each planet a new chapter in the saga of the cosmos. As the SS Odyssey continued its voyage into the uncharted territories of the Orion Arm, the discoveries and diplomatic missions of the past weeks seemed to coalesce into a broader vision. Captain Teller, standing at the helm, felt a profound connection to the cosmos, each star a note in the symphony of the galaxy. The food synthesis project, led by Dr. Choi, was making significant strides. With the integration of the rare minerals and resilient fungus collected from the moons, they had developed a prototype meal that could adapt its chemical composition in response to the diner's emotional state. The results were promising. Preliminary tests showed that the food effectively calmed stressed individuals and invigorated those suffering from the isolation of deep space travel. In the Odyssey's conference room, a holographic display illuminated the faces of various species representatives from across the galaxy. They were gathered virtually for the first symposium on emotional nutrition, a term coined by Dr. Choi and her team. The discussions were rich and varied, with each delegate bringing insights from their own world's dietary practices and emotional well-being. Captain Teller introduced the session with a brief overview of their journey, emphasizing the Odyssey's dual role in exploration and peace-building. "Today we stand at the threshold of a new era in interstellar relations," he declared. "One where we not only share resources, but also care for the emotional well-being of our diverse communities." The symposium led to the formation of the Interspecies Nutritional Council, a body committed to furthering research and implementation of emotionally responsive foods. The council planned to establish protocols for the ethical treatment of all species, ensuring that the new technology was used to enhance, not manipulate, emotional states. Back on the ship, as the Odyssey sailed through a particularly dense asteroid field, the tranquility of space was a stark contrast to the bustling activity within. In the lab, Dr. Choi and her team celebrated the successful deployment of their first batch of emotionally adaptive meals to the crew. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive, with many reporting a noticeable improvement in mood and overall well-being. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Harrow and his engineering team were engaged in a delicate maneuver to extract energy-rich ores from one of the larger asteroids. The operation was risky, but the potential rewards were too great to ignore. With expert precision, they managed to secure a substantial haul of the ore, which promised to fuel the Odyssey for years to come. As the Odyssey approached the end of its current mission's path, Captain Teller took a moment to reflect on their accomplishments. They had navigated not only the physical distances between stars, but also the metaphorical distances between cultures and species. The ship was more than a vessel. It was a microcosm of a hopeful future. In the quiet of the command center, Teller watched a distant supernova burst into brilliant light, its radiance reaching across light years to touch the Odyssey. It was a reminder of the fleeting nature of existence and the enduring quest for knowledge and connection. As the Odyssey prepared for its return journey to human-controlled space, the crew looked forward to sharing their findings and experiences. The mission had provided valuable lessons in diplomacy, science, and the shared bonds of the galaxy's many inhabitants. Captain Teller, gazing out at the expanding supernova, felt a sense of completion. The mission had woven new threads into the fabric of galactic unity, each thread strengthening the whole. And as the Odyssey turned homeward, its path illuminated by the stars, it carried with it the promise of continued exploration and an ever-expanding understanding of the vast, intricate universe they were all a part of.